Good morning, YouTube. Well, it's the second day of the swing build. This is what we had done yesterday, and the video turned out a little bit longer than I actually would have liked to have had it been. I wanted it to be like half-hour videos, maybe a little bit less. But there's so much stuff that you need to see in order to build this swing, it kind of gets to be long. I went and got the chain and the hooks, and this will be the hardware to actually hang the swing with. So we will get in that at the very end of the video, and got a special guest here. Alex is here today.
Hello, YouTube.
And he's on his way to look at some jobs today.
Yeah, I gotta go bid some jobs.
So Alex is on his quest to go into his own business. He's an electrician by trade, and he has got a van now, got a bunch of tools, and he does great electrical work. So he's going to be doing the panel box up at the old sawmill for us.
Yep.
So we're going to be putting that 200 amp service in up there for the, hopefully we get the dry kiln this year. That's one of our big goals. Yeah, we've got a lot accomplished in this past year. So, okay, we're going to get started here, and I'll be with you guys in a minute. All right, we're going to make the seat slats here, and what I have is 1 5/8 by 1 3/8, and I'm going to try to get 2 5/8 pieces out of it for the seat slats. So we're going to see if this works out all right. Otherwise, we're going to be cutting into some more material. So we'll give it a try on the table saw here. Always use the push stick when you're doing narrow. Okay, I think we succeeded, so we'll go ahead and split these other ones down, and I think we're going to take these over to the wide belt sander. All right, we're at the wide belt sander, and I showed you this in the shop tour, and first thing you want to do is you got to put the air tension onto the drum, and we'll get this thing ready to run here. What we're going to do is we're going to sand the seat slats down here, and I'm going to leave the saw marks on the bottom side. You'll never see them. All I want to do is just get out any imperfections, and this worked out nice. We got two for one, so you don't get that too often. So I'm going to hand Alex the camera here. He's going to be the cameraman here, and let me start the dust system up, and we'll go ahead and run some boards through. Let me get a pencil here. And what I like to do is I like to put some pencil lines. That way you can see what the sander's actually taking off. So adjust the table to 5/8 of an inch. And I like to bring it in a little bit light and crank it up as I go so you don't burn the belt. So okay, we got to come up a little bit more. And once I got it set, then we'll run them all through. That's sanding out. And the pencil lines have disappeared, so we know that we're actually sanding. So we'll go ahead and run the other 7 pieces through. Then after that, we'll go ahead and cut them to length. Okay, we got them sanded. That took about a whole 5 minutes. If you'd had to do these with the random orbital sander, it took you a little while. But look at this poplar. It almost looks like walnut. You get them real deep colors in some of this poplar. This will look really nice when it's all stained up. So I'm going to use the same router I used on the other parts, and this is just a very small round over, and this will break the edges. So we're going to round them over, and then we're going to cut them to length. All right, we'll finish rounding over the other ones and see you at the radial saw. Okay, we're at the radial saw here, so we're going to set the stop at 66 1/4. And remember, measure many times and cut once. It took a little bit of time to make these slats, so we're going to square up one end first. Okay, we'll finish cutting these up and we'll be with you in a minute. Alrighty, we got the slats cut. I just got them laying in there. I like the color variation. You don't see that too often in poplar. It almost looks like walnut, some of that. So our next step now is to turn our attention to the back slats, and these will be in 3 different sizes, and they basically become like a fan back. You can see on the original here. And as simple as they look, there's a little bit more to them that meets the eye. They have a double taper on them. Each side does taper down equally. So I had made a sled for the table saw, and I will show you how all this works. First step was we'll make some rough stock, and then once we got everything cut to size, we'll go ahead over to the table saw. And there's three separate sizes. There'll be 23.5, 22.5, and 21.5, and that's how that makes that nice looking fan back. So we'll go ahead and get some stock ready, and we'll be with you in a minute. All right, now that we got the slats made, we made the blanks, and I made a simple sled up. And all you want to do is put your piece of wood on here. You're going to make your first cut, and then you're going to flip it around and make your second cut. Okay, now we're going to turn that over, turn the jig over, put our second cut, and there you have it. You got a perfect tapered piece. So we'll go ahead and round the tops over, and then we'll route them all up. Okay, all we're going to do is simply take our template. We're just going to trace the radius on it, and we're going to go over to the bandsaw and belt sander and get that radius put on it, and then we'll get these things routed and we'll be ready for finishing. So we'll talk to you in a minute. The next step here is the armrest. And I'm not going to get into too much detail on this because I've showed you a lot of detail on the other parts. One thing to point out on this armrest is we have the 10-degree back cut on here, and this is so it goes with the slant of the backrest. So that is simply done on a table saw with the miter gauge, and you're going to run it through the saw like this in order to take over the table saw here. And all you're going to do is set up your height of your blade, and all right, one thing I did want to point out on the armrest is don't forget you have a left and a right. So you have to mirror these. And I'm going to show you a little bit different technique on how to notch these out. We're going to set the miter gauge at the proper angle, so when you take this armrest, and don't forget it's going to go up on another leg, and you want to make sure that this angle follows that, because otherwise it won't be a nice tight joint on there. So I just made a test cut out further on the piece here. So I'm going to show you how we're going to just nibble this, and this method works fairly well. So we're going to go ahead and just do one just to show you. I know that last video was a little bit long, but if I'm not showing you anything on how to do stuff, there's no sense of having a video. I could have a pile of parts and then 6 minutes later say, oh, it's done. I don't think it's going to help anybody. So we're going to stick with this. What you want to do, go all the way through the saw. And just nibble it down. May take a minute or two. But once we get the biggest part of the chunks out of here, we can go back and forth. And on the end, you want to be a little careful. Now we can go back and forth and knock out the remaining little pieces. And turns out to be a fairly decent cut. And we'll show you the result here over at the swing. So when this goes on here now, you can see you got a real nice fit up, and takes an extra minute to do, but the results are much better. Now when we go to do the other side, we're going to turn the miter gauge to the opposite side of 90 to the same setting, and we're going to do a test cut and follow the same procedure. Then all it's left to do is do a final routing on this armrest and a little bit of sanding. I did figure I wasn't going to show all this, and I said, you know what, I better show this because it gets a little detailed. And again, if I don't show you every step of the way here, there's no sense of having a video on how to build a swing. So we will be back here in a little bit with starting to put the finish on it. So it's starting to look like a finished product here. I'll be with you in a minute. YouTube, okay, it's time to put some finish on the swing here, and we're going to start from the underneath here. I have my best helper in the whole world, my daughter Savannah, and say hello. Hello. Alrighty. And I taught Savannah a lot of things in life, and one is, does anybody know what that is? Alrighty. All right, we're going to give Savannah a little brush here, and she got her gloves on, some old clothes, and her own little paint cup here, and she's going to start going around the bottom here, and I'm going to have a brush and a roller, and we're going to see how much we can get done here. So here we go. Some people Okay, we're back in real time. Well, what do you think?
I got ketchup on my hands.
You got ketchup on your hands? You don't got no fries? What about some tater tots?
I had tater tots for lunch.
Yeah? Alrighty, well, hope everybody enjoyed our little painting project here. So, all we need now is a little bit of time for this to dry, and once everything is completely coated and dried, we will get back to you and we will start assembling the swing and getting the chains and everything all on it, and hopefully take it for a test ride, huh?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for the help.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back with you in a little bit. Okay, the finish is now dried. I don't know if you can see me or not here. I'm trying to get a good camera angle for you. So the front armrest ended up to be 9.5 inches long. So what I did is I made up just a quick little masonite or a piece of Luan template, and this gives me the position of the armrest, that leg that's going to hold it. And I cut an additional piece that's 9.5 inches long, and it really helps to have an extra set of hands. So if you're real careful here, this just sits absolutely perfect on there, and it's a little tricky to get this position, but this seems to be just about perfect. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do the old tack it with a brad and pre-drill it. Before I tack this from the bottom though, I'm going to send a couple holes down through, and I'm going to trace this with a pencil, and the reason being, if you get a hole down through it, it is so much easier to drill down through and then see the hole there. And this is one of them pieces that almost don't make it to where it needs to be as far as getting a couple screws up in there at a good, nice angle. So that broke through. And the second one is going to come out just to the outside of that. And we should be able to access it. Yep, right there. So that worked out really good. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and tack that in place this way. Everything's lined up. We just put it right back on the pencil line. And we'll send a... And that'll help it from moving around. And the back won't be so hard to do. So we'll go ahead and send a screw up through there and get this held into place. In fact, let me run the pilot hole back up through one time here. You can see it even tried to move with the brad in it. It won't move in a minute here. And that is tight. That ain't gonna move. And I'm using the long screws again. Yeah, that is nice and solid. All right, now we can set the armrest up on the little block we had made. And you want to pull that nice and tight. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go back on the back side of this, and we're not going to... No brad on this one. Okay, we'll drill one hole at a time here. And pull that in nice and tight, and we'll get a second screw. And the reason I didn't put no glue on this is I more or less have this coated with the stain, so the glue wouldn't have done you much good here. All right, now the last step is we will send a couple screws. In fact, really one down through here is more than enough. So you want to do is you want to get a good eyeball on this thing from both directions, and we're going to send one long screw down into this. And you don't want to countersink that one very deep because you want it to sort of stop flush. There you go. And that is not moving. So we'll repeat the process on the other side, and then we're going to start on the back slats, and then the final seat, and then the change. So I will be with you in a minute. Okay, now we're going to start on the back slats. We're going to start out, they're set up with 3 different sizes. They're 1 inch apart. So we start out with the smaller ones on the end, and then we keep working in and in until we end up with the 2 tall ones in the middle, and it creates that nice fanned effect. The first step you want to do is put one of your seat slats in place and hold the slat in place and see that it goes back far enough because if you bring this slat too close to the edge of that cutout, it won't allow that back to go in place without starting to cut notches, and you don't want to do that. So you're going to start the back slats roughly at the edge of the cutouts, and then you're going to fan them in. So we're going to do, once we figure out that, we're going to draw a line. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, which I've already done. And all we're going to do on the bottom is we're going to send 1 1/4 inch brad in the bottom of them. And you'll see why we don't want to nail them too tight at this point. To make this a little bit easier, we have a piece of scrap glue on, and all we're going to do is just clamp this from underneath, and this gives them boards something to rest on. So we'll start right here, and the board will touch the bottom. They're not going to be a flat cut on the bottom, so you have to sort of just work them. So we will send 1 brad in. We'll come to the outside, making sure that you got the right ones, because you can get confused fairly easy here. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to send, we're just going in the center. Now, I got the other sizes already here. What I like to do is just set them in place before you commit to nailing anything. And this is where the visual comes in. You gotta sort of have a little bit of an eye, and you just keep working them left and right until you have the space on the bottom relatively close. Because when you glance at the swing, you sort of want to see an equal distance there. So once we tack these bottoms in, then we'll go to the top and we'll start getting that spread out properly. So we'll go ahead and just start left and right. And again, we're not on a race. We're not seeing who could get this done the fastest. And we'll okay, now we go to the top, and we'll just start with the 2 outsider ones. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send, we're going to end up with 2 on each one, so I'm just going to do the, okay, now you sort of want to just play with them. And you want these to look good at a glance. All right. Now we'll continue on the other ones, the same process, and then we're going to come back with some heavier brad. We're going to put the 1 1/4 brads on the 2 outsides. In the middle, I'm going to send 1 heavier gauge finish nail with my other finish nail gun. And then the bottom, I'm just going to put a couple more brads, because there's really, I mean, just with that, they're pretty strong. So we'll get this part done, and then we're going to start on the seat slats. So we'll be with you in a minute. Okay, we're down to our final step of the swing. We're going to put the seating slats in. And the reason last night, Savannah, I had done the stain on it last night, is this way, it stains underneath of all the boards. And what I will do later on, let this sit for a month or 2, maybe before the end of summer, I'll put 1 more coat of stain on it. I just wanted to get everything protected for now, because this will get a little bit of wear. Beside me, I put every board on a horse here, and I laid it out because this poplar has a lot of contrast in it. So I'll start bringing the boards over, and we'll just lay them in loose. And I cut them just a little bit loose, because by the time you get the stain thickness on it, it'd be almost too tight, it'd be rubbing. I have already cut some blocks. They're approximately 1/4 inch thick. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top, and we're going to just place one block and bring the board against it and repeat the process all the way back. So you need 8 of them because there's 8 slats. And that step that I did when I put the fan backs on is I allowed enough room so we have our space at the very back. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And once we get these in here, all we're going to do is this seat will be held down with nothing more than brads. Now, we're going to nail the outsides first. We'll pull the blocks. We'll put the blocks back in because these boards have a little bit of variation to them, so we'll bring them back to true again. So we're going to start with the 1¼ inch brads. Now that everything is laid out perfectly, and we're just going to put 2 brads per board. Check your gun, make sure you still have nails. I don't know how many people have done that before. Middle nail and something, and some guns will stop firing when they're out of nails, but unfortunately this gives you a little yellow indicator line. So when you see yellow, I think we got, all right, let's reload here. All right, now let's go ahead and relocate all these. And you can see you gotta shove them a little bit. So these boards are only 5/8 thick. And there we go. And we'll do the same thing on this side before we nail that, because it would be even harder to bend it. All right, looks like it's nice and even. So we'll go ahead and shoot these on. And after that, we'll go ahead and get the chains set up to hang it with. And then we can go ahead and put this thing back up where it belongs. Okay, we will be with you in a minute, and we'll start working on the chains to hold the swing up. Talk to you then. Okay, next step here is we're going to put the holes in here for the eye hooks that are going to hold up the swing. So the same jig that I'd used to set that with works out just perfect. Just drill a hole in the thing, and now we have our layout, and just mark them. And then here you're going to hold the radius on right on the edge. And then we'll go ahead and send the hole all the way through. All right, now what we will do is the eye hooks, I found these up at a Tractor Supply. They actually have a coating on them. I don't know how much better they are than the galvanized. The stainless steel stuff has got so expensive I don't even bother with it. So you're going to put the eye hook down. I put a stainless steel washer on top and bottom. And what I will do is I will get an acorn nut. I don't have them with me now, but I will use an acorn nut on the bottom as a jam nut, and then that can never come loose. So we'll go ahead and repeat this process around the sides, and then we'll start rigging up the chains for it. Be with you in a second. Okay, we're going to make the chains up here. I've been fooling around with this for a couple of minutes. Got this chain at Tractor Supply. I believe it was like 800 pounds working load, so it's way overrated. We're going to use the quick links on the bottom ends where it's going to connect to the eye hooks on the swing. So I went ahead and measured up my other swing to get the proportion of where I need to be. And it's coming into like 1 inch difference from front to back gives it a nice tilt. With these big links, we're going to get as close as we can. We'll see how it hangs when we get it down there. So it's roughly 35 and 34 inches to get you to that. You know, one leg is 35 inches, one leg's 34 inches. And then I need it overall from the swing base like 4.5 foot to the very top. And at the very top, there's another quick link. And this is what goes into the big eye hook, where it hangs from. When you're going to put a spring on your swings, make sure you buy, this is a safety spring. If this spring fails, you don't hit the ground. It has an extra couple links bent into it, and if the spring goes bad, it just falls down and stops, and it don't hit the ground, because the old porch swings were notorious when them springs snapped. You were taking a ride downward, so you want to sort of be careful. I'm just cutting this with these old pair of snips I have. You sort of have to play with them a little bit, but you give it a couple. You give it a couple cranks and a lot of times I'll just get my Dremel tool out with the wafer wheel, but then you got stuff flying. And there we go. So we got that piece cut. Then all we need is another one, the full length. This outside one. And again, we'll start it off with a quick link. And all we're going to do is just hold this beside this one and mark it and repeat the process. So we'll go ahead and mark this real quick, and then we're going to go over to the swing, and the red link gets cut. All right, we'll take a walk over to the swing, and there should be roughly 1 inch difference from front to back. And this is way stronger than it has to be. And then where you make that divide at, all you do is just find the link you want, and it'll sort of equal itself out. So I'm going to grab the tripod here, and we're going to take a walk over to the swing. And if the weather was any nicer outside, we could probably go out there and hang this if Alex would stop by. So again, the quick links, and what I did on the one that I have is the chain that runs all the way through was the back. So I used to do in the past is open the loop up on the eye hook, but I think honestly you start doing that, you're going to weaken that steel, because it was bent around one time and they probably forced it around some sort of die. And if you open that back up and close it back up, you might be creating a weak spot. So this gives you an idea. And that will go all the way up to the spring, and this will pretty much hang off of that. So we'll get the other set made up, and we will be back with you in a second. Well, there's the finished product. I really hope everybody enjoyed this video. I enjoyed producing it. It was a little bit of a challenge walking around the shop here with a tripod, a block of wood to stick the GoPro in, and trying to edit out every little piece and show you as much as I could, because I didn't want to throw a 7-minute video on of a pile of parts. Next thing you have a swing and no one seen nothing being done. So I appreciate the comments. I seen the comments on this porch swing part 1. Awesome comments. I thank everybody that supports this channel. I think as of today we went to 16,000 subscribers. I don't know what it will be by the time this video airs. I know Savannah's excited about being on the YouTube video. So I'm not sure what the next woodworking project will be, but I guarantee you that this weekend me and Eddie Horvath will be back up at the sawmill, and we'll be cutting some logs into some lumber. At least now you get to see what happens to some of the boards that come off of that mill. They actually do get used for projects. And again, appreciate the support, appreciate the comments, and I will be talking to you guys on Saturday. Bye-bye.